how have they been constituted, what's the leadership, how long has the leadership been in place, what is the real knowledge of the framework, even their constituency, what is the legitimacy base of the organization. So it fueled lots of reflection and interrogation about who, as a community, we say is our community because our primary focus is civil society organization, and what is this civil society organization or civil society community a form of? Especially because Osiwa is concerned of by having strong civil society organizations, we have put in place an institute years back, WACSI, West African Civil Society Institute, that has been doing lots of funding, lots of training for civil society organization in various issues, from writing proposals, monitoring evaluation, impact evaluation, project management, you name it. And even in some cases, for instance, we have targeted countries that we think that the civil society organizations are maybe in a weak position, like Guinea, Niger, and we have organized on-site tailored trainings for civil society organization to strengthen their capacity, institutional capacity, project management capacity, etc., etc. And what we have come up to, when we look at, like, just to give you figures, when we for instance, we have a call for proposal, we get maybe 500. 400 are just, completely non-usable. And so now what we decided, we mix call for proposals and proactive engagement with organization. As much as we want to give chance to organization to apply and to, that we don't know, we realize that, if we only rely on call for proposal and proposal we receive through our calls, we end up having, really difficulty absorbing our budget because we don't find relevant organizers. So proactive engagement help us to, have discussion, conversation with the organization that come to us or that we identify and see on the field, and then we start engaging them on work to do together. But I think what probably need to be looked at is the innovation, the creativity I talked about, and really being focused and sticking to your area of expertise, and not being driven by trends, because this is now was a trend on, maybe it's artificial intelligence, you want to go there and do, why you don't have the capacity, why you don't have the expertise, and why you don't have knowledge of the field. So these are the tips that maybe I can, for the time being, and also management, but these are also issues that are linked to civil society organization, leadership transition, having staff, having middle staff that is nurtured, groomed. So it's a complex web of issues related to civil society organizations, and I think that maybe this feedback from funding organization can help reflect self-reflection by civil society organizations on how they can strengthen their structures.
Yeah, thank you. There's something I got out from where you said that I would really emphasize now. You seem to say that that sometimes funding comes not just when we approach you, but when you notice our work on the field, right? Okay. So you're saying that the better work you do, the better impact you make on the field, right? Tends to be a magnet for funding, right? That's basically okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. Titi, any comments? Okay, Chloe, okay,
go ahead. Yes. I believe you've reiterated a few of the really cogent points. has the quality been great? The diplomatic answer is the quality has greatly improved from what I've known it to be. Is there a training gap? Absolutely. But that is also the lack of capacity or the non-growth in the ability to churn out really great SOIs or proposals is very much also hampered by the fact that more often than not, civil society is really stretched. In an ideal world, you would have all those layers that you've mentioned. However, and I say this as someone who has worked in the civil society sector, I've worked in the private sector, I've worked in academia, is that where you then have the really great skills, they get poached by the private sector. Sorry. But that is what typically happens, and that there's not necessarily a transference of those set of skills. As such, so there is that stretch capacity in as much as you want to be able to respond and have access to really great sources of funding, like what you get from the State Department or from the DRL, etc. The processes are exceedingly onerous. Yeah. And that's something I want to be able to put out there, and I'm saying it as someone from the private sector, that the processes can be exceedingly onerous. If you're a well-established institution, Internews, you can access some of those funding. However, that is not the case for probably 90% of the non-profit institutions that are engaged in this space. So that's something that I firmly believe those who provide sources of funding, whether large grants or really small grants, needs to reflect on. In my role, a lot of what I have done is a bit of the mix. I am consistently on the lookout. I used to love my anonymity a lot. It's not been the case. I'm increasingly less anonymous. The person to blame is somewhere in this room. Such that I spent a lot of time in the community, attending conferences, whether I spoke or not, or actually just being in the space and listening and engaging with institutions so that I could then drill down. And I would get sometimes by that point, proposals that come from them that you can tell it's either a language issue or it's just an issue of, just a little bit of what in English you would call polishing that's required to get them to that point. And in some cases where you recognize that there's a great nugget of an idea, you will spend the time helping to nurture that or direct them to institutions that they can partner with that makes it a stronger proposal. However, that backfires. I have civil society institutions that are upset with me because I ask them, how about you connect with this so that you can have a stronger proposal to me? They get really offended. You're taking my idea. So that's the part, the third point I want to be able to emphasize. That where you do not have the expertise, you made a reference to AI, everything is AI now. Everybody wants to, in fact, I saw AI 4D. And it took me back to ICT 4D. I'm bridging the digital divide. Is Benga in the room? Benga is not in the room. So, why do I mention this? If you recognize that there is a particular trend that has elements or components of what you might have an expertise to or you want to connect to, the best thing you can do for yourself is connect to the expertise that you identify in that space and show the value add that you bring. Then it makes more sense to connect to this trend. Because otherwise, sincerely, you come across like you're just a fly-by-night, and we get a lot of that as well. We're not having a conversation on the fly-by-night non-profits that are just looking to be able to tap into the funding process. So that's the other one. A final point around, generally, what's the quality being like? Quality is great, but when it's too dense, I also find that it's a bit of a problem because you have, in trying to respond to the entirety of the process, you demonstrate that you are all over the place. So that ability to be able to focus, yes. Importantly, if you don't have the expertise, identify the expertise to be in such a proposal, makes all the difference as well. And the reflection for us as donors as well. Less onerous does help.
Yes.
I'll be brief. Because I think I would agree with what my fellow panelists have said so far. I'm quite used to being in the hot seat in terms of requirements for applications because DRL is notorious for having a very long process. But I think to where you can, and I realize this isn't an option for all organizations, to TT's point, looking to partner with organizations who can maybe shoulder some of that administrative burden. If you don't have the time to do that, I would recommend that. I realize not everyone is comfortable with that, so that's not always an option, but definitely something to think about, and something that we're certainly helpful, looking to help organizations connect with one another within the community as well. One point, just very quickly, I wanted to make, because I know DRL's application process looks a little different than some of my other panelists might, is that I won't underscore or underplay the amount of time it takes to submit a statement of interest or an application to the State Department. But what I would encourage civil society to do is really to not be intimidated by those documents. So many of you I've talked to just over the past couple of days already have so many great kind of foundations for proposals you have already, whether you do your own personal fundraising, whether you have success stories, brochures, all of those materials can really be leveraged to create a really strong proposal. And I know it looks like a lot, and I understand that to the point on quality of proposals. When we do receive proposals that may not be of high quality, we realize it's because a lot of you are out doing really great work and just simply don't have the resources or the time to be able to devote to creating a whole new application when you're working on 50 other projects of your own. So what I would really encourage all of you to do, especially if you're not quite comfortable with looking for other partners who may be able to shoulder some of that organizational development burden, is to really take a close look at the resources and materials you already have and that you're already circulating within your communities and within fundraising efforts that you might already be engaged in, and look to see how you can kind of fit those in to support your proposal to a donor like the State Department.
Okay, and actual thoughts, yes to everything that was already said. I will also say, if the person or the organization that you're applying for funding to offers a feedback call on your proposal if it was not accepted, take that. That is key. And I think for the funding, like the open calls that we've put out, I think about 10% of the organizations respond to me with a request for a feedback call, and we offer it to every single organization that we turn down for funds. And that is key, I think, because as the person who does the call with you, I think you'll end up getting crucial information on my thinking on your proposal, which is something that maybe wasn't obvious. But then also you're on my radar because you've had crucial time speaking to the person in the organization directly, and I will then often know more about your organization because I'll talk you through what you're trying to get at with your proposal, and that has often led to me putting you in touch with other people I know who might be funding that, or in the future coming back when we have a proposal that's relevant to that and partnering with you at that point. So that is honestly a crucial time where you can talk directly to a funder that so few people use. I find it surprising.
Thank you. So I'll just I'll give room for some questions now before we go back to our panelists. So if you have questions, I'll take like maybe 7 now. Questions, if one. Any questions for our panelists? Good. No questions. You've understood everything. Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, just want to know if there's more. 2, okay. 3, 4, 5, okay. 6. Okay, let's start from here. Give them a please, a mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is James Lado Modi. I'm from South Sudan, and I'm the director for United Nations Advocates for Youth Empowerment and Development Organization. It has been really crucial this afternoon about the issue of funding toward the civil society and the other groups who are working to save the lives of humanity. So I have some couple questions, one to our sister from Google. where I came from, I do a lot of things, not only one activity for the youth, but I do issues to do with peace building. Most of the time I, gather together the elders and the stakeholders to reflect on what are the importance of peace building in South Sudan if we really wanted the country to get stable. So more importantly, we can sometimes, I can sometimes also call for musicians, musicians to come and they will dialogue issues to do with trauma. So it's not only one priority. Now I got a little bit confused when you say that if I'm to come to your office, I'm supposed to write a proposal for 3 years, or I have to do a specific thing. So what can I do? Because in most cases, I wanted something urgently so that I solve a certain issue. For instance, cattle raiding. The community Y and P have been fighting for issue of cattle raiding, but I need them to be in peace. So if you are talking about 3 years proposal, or you only wanted specific thing that about computers, because you work for IT, you wanted computers, so how can that be? How will you help the community? So I think that's going to be a big problem for my work, and that's going to be a big problem for civil society. It will be much better if your office can also look into different issues, different angles, like if it is not an IT, you cannot assist. Another question is about to our sister from US department. Most of the civil society, as I speak today in my home country, are not funded. We are just working voluntarily. And for now, most of the projects have been shifted from developmental issues to humanitarian. So are there other possible ways that I can get funding? Because I need to get funding. I need to get, I really need money.